Serious political power present at Hector International Airport today. Governor Doug Burgum headlined it, a groundbreaking ceremony for the airport's planned expansion. Valley News Team's Gabriel Osler was at the event to gauge the excitement levels.
1, 2, 3.
The enthusiasm was almost as high as the winds were at Hector International Airport. A strong lineup of political figures spoke at the groundbreaking ceremony for the airport's grand expansion. The mayor of Fargo, Dr. Tim Mahoney, U.S. Senators John Hoeven and Kevin Cramer, and the governor of North Dakota, Doug Burgum.
I'm glad we've got such a beautiful day for this event. I was worried it might be windy today.
Burgum spoke about how expanded air travel will provide more support to the growing tourism sector in North Dakota.
Saw a huge increase, 5.3% in visitors over last year. They spend over $3 billion lodging, food, beverage, retail, recreation, transportation in our state. So again, this project's going to help out.
Mahoney acknowledged the governor's presence while pointing to what this turnout means for the city of Fargo.
We're really excited to have the governor and all the senators come in light of the fact the governor is now running for vice president. It's really cool that everybody came here today. And it's also interesting that they all understand what's happening in Fargo, that this is the area that's growing in the state.
The $200 million airport overhaul involves a covered parking structure connected to the terminal, remodeled indoor areas, and the addition of 4 new gates. Senator Hoeven says that gate expansion will have far-reaching economic benefits.
We're going to have the premier airport between Minneapolis and Seattle, and that's actually going to save people money. Okay, and here's how. Because we're going to have more carriers coming in here and more flights and more competition. That means lower airfares for this whole region.
In the meantime, though, it's all smiles for the future of air travel and all eyes on Governor Burgum's next move. In Fargo, Gabriel Osler, Valley News Live.
Thank you, Gabriel. Now, Governor Burgum is known to be on former President Trump's shortlist for vice presidential nominees, but Burgum is remaining tight-lipped on whether or not he is the official selection.